Hello, everybody. Welcome to the weekend review for week 3. I don't want to say module 3. I got to be careful about that, but for week 3, and we're actually doing module 4. So, because remember, we're doing a couple modules in a couple of given weeks, and last week was one of those weeks where we did 2 modules at a time. Well, let's talk a little bit about what we're doing this week. I think you're going to find week 3 pretty much kind of our normal. Um, pace where you won't have to do kind of that double duty. Remember, we will have one more week where we're going to do double duty. Again, we're going to knock out a couple of modules. I think that's in week 6. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's week 6. Um, I can check our syllabus here, double check and make sure. I believe that is week 6. I'm sorry, no, yeah, week 6 we'll be doing a 2 modules in that week. But what I try when we have those double weeks, if you will, I lighten the other content. Again, there's content that was in this course that's been eliminated as far as activities that you might see in our 8-week version that are not in the 6 weeks, because I know it is really difficult on you guys when you are doing so much so fast. But with that being said, you guys are doing a phenomenal job, and I am going to talk a little bit about grades here in a moment as we go along. But let's talk a little bit about the business of the day and talk about what we're doing in this week 3. So let's jump into the class here. I am fighting a cold, so if you, I might need to drink some coffee here so I don't completely lose my voice as we're going through this. But let's go ahead and take a look at the content for this week. Hope everybody had a nice Memorial Day and got to, if you were lucky enough to get the weekend off. I know most of you are healthcare workers, and that means absolutely nothing as far as getting holidays off. But for those of you that did, I hope you had some time to recharge the batteries. All right, so this week we're going to be continuing our discussion on those fundamental financial statements. We did the income statement last week. Now we're doing the balance sheet and statement of cash flows. So I really want you to go away from this class at least understanding those basic financial statements, because you will hear those used time and time again as you're a healthcare manager, and you got to know what they are. I don't want you graduating from Mercy College with an HCA degree or medical imaging degree and not know what those are, because they are critical. All right, so let's take a look at what we're doing today. I'll get off my soapbox there. We got our normal readings and presentations. We have our learning activity, again, kind of our homework, and we have a midterm. All right, so let's talk about the midterm. Now, a few of you texted me over the weekend. You're working early. You're starting to work on that midterm. Great. Now, and you wanted to see the quizzes, because I referred back in one of the earlier videos that the midterm will include a lot of information from those quizzes. Excuse me one moment as I make swallowing sounds here. So you will definitely want to go back and look at those quizzes. All of the quizzes have been graded, quiz 1, 2, and 3, and those are released to you. So that means you can go in, you can see the answers, you can see all your questions, what you missed, what you didn't miss, what was correct, what was incorrect. You can do all that. Review those quizzes. That information will show up on the midterm. Now we have a little bit more content on balance sheets, which is also going to show up on the midterm. So there will be some new stuff on there. You will want to study that as well. But knowing that that content is really coming back again that you've already seen, most students get 95, 98, 100 on the midterm. Again, go back and study those quizzes, write down what you got wrong, right, kind of review all that information, and then you should do just fine, if not fantastic, on the midterm. And that'll be 100 points that you'll be able to kind of gather in for yourself. So it always kind of blows me the way. There's a few students who don't hear the message. So I'm trying to say, hopefully you're watching this video and you're hearing the message. Go back and review those quizzes, because if you do, you're going to do great. If you don't, you might get a 70% on it, and you might remember some of those questions, you might not, but go back, do yourself a favor, spend about an hour reviewing those old quizzes, another hour reviewing the new material that you're studying this week, and you guys will do phenomenal on that. So that's all there is this week. You got a midterm, which you guys should knock out of the park. If you've seen this video, you're going to knock that one out of the park. And you've got your learning activity, which you guys are doing great on the learning activity. All right, so that's all for this week. Now let's talk about the course in general. We're kind of getting to basically the midpoint at this point in the course, since this is a only 6 week course. I know a lot of you are concerned about your quiz grades. Now, as I've said from the intro video and almost every video that we've had, the quizzes are the most challenging part of this course, but it's not all the course. There are there's other assignments within the course that you need to look at. So some of you may not be used to getting an 82% on a quiz. You're used to getting those 100s. Now, that's okay. But remember, when you're looking at the entire course and how you're doing, make sure you're adding up all of your points. For example, case in point, I've had a discussion with a student. They're really worried. My quiz grades aren't what I normally get. I'm like, that's I understand the quizzes are challenging and it's by design. And but remember, count up all your other points. So I sat and I actually counted up all the other points in the course and came up with an average. And the student's getting a 91% in the course. You're doing really good. You're just at the cusp of getting an A, and I guarantee once you see some of the other points flowing through in the course that you're going to, as long as you're still putting that effort forth, which that student has been doing, you're going to do phenomenal in the course. So don't be despondent. Add up all of your points. I think right now, as through modules 1, 2, and 3, we're at 166 points. So add up what points that you have earned in the assignments and divide that by 166, and then you get a percentage of what you're getting in the course. So hopefully you all know how to get a percentage grade. Um, but if you don't, again, it's a pretty easy process. Total points possible, points that you've earned. The points that you've earned is the numerator. Total points possible is the denominator. Hit divide, you're going to get, a 0.93. That's 93%. Make sure you move the decimal point over 2 points, and that tells you what your percentage is. So calculate that, and I think you're going to be very, very happy. Now, the other thing I want you to know, and I mentioned this in other videos, is that the quizzes are going to start changing, and you're going to see that change in Module 5. And again, I told you there are going to be some different styles of quizzing. So in Module 5, we're going to have more of a type of there's only 5 questions or more essay, more looking for process rather than correct answers. For those of you that do really well in that area, students are going to see, increased performance that way. And I've talked about the final, for example. The final is 200 points. And I call it design your own final. I give you a list of 50 terms that we've been introducing throughout this course. I believe, don't quote me if I'm wrong, but I believe you pick out 25. It's either 100 and you pick out 50, or it's 50 and you pick out 25. You pick out 25 terms, the ones that you like that resonate with you, and you define those. You talk about them in a single paragraph. You should all get 200 points on the midterm. As long as you're doing the work, which is, looking at the textbook, finding the material, putting it in your own words, writing a cohesive 3 to 4 sentence paragraph, you're going to get the full 200 points for the midterm. And most students do. There's always a percentage that for some reason don't do it, for whatever happens, and they just don't click. And but for 90% of the students, 90% of the students get almost all the points on the final. That's 200 points out of 1,000. So again, that's going to be used to boost up your overall point total in the course. And as for those of you that have had me before, I always usually toss in, and I'm going to do it for this course too. I toss in an extra credit opportunity. That'll be happening in the next couple modules. Probably, let's see, we're in week 3. I'll probably put that out in week 4 or 5, some extra credit opportunity for you. Almost always, students don't need the extra points. They usually get the grade that they want. And the people that do the extra credit usually already have so many points anyway that they've locked in the A. But if you think that you're marginal, and let's say you're at a C and you want to get that B, or you're a B and you want to get that A, there will be some extra credit opportunity out there for you. So stay tuned for that. So long story short, if you're putting the effort into this course and you're putting in that concentrated effort, you're going to do well. you're going to do well. If you're mailing it in, and you know when you mail it in, you know when you kind of are just skating by, yeah, you might skate by and pass the course. But if you're putting the effort into it, and I'm gonna be able to see that, you're gonna do really well in the course. So I guess I'm gonna say, don't worry, add up all your points. The quizzes are going to change. They're going to change. And historically, students said they kind of like the different styles of quizzes that show up later in the course. So I think you guys are going to like that. And you're going to see the quiz grades. I think they just kind of naturally go up. I like a little bit of the tougher quizzes in the beginning. Um, they do. The questions are really designed for critical thinking. There isn't exactly sometimes a clear cut answer for some of them. It's kind of maybe the most appropriate answer out of your choices. So it kind of challenges you a little bit, but I think that's okay. This is a 300 level course. Expect to be challenged a little bit. That's my job, is to have a little bit of a challenge out there, but not to make it overwhelming. And I think when you look at the other ways that you're learning through the learning activities, even through progress journals, we're going to have a case study coming up. Students do really well in the case study. Again, as long as I see that you're applying some process to the case study, they tend to get full points for that. That'll be coming up next week, and you'll have some time. You'll have a full, basically 2 weeks to do the to do that case study. So so yeah, don't be despondent. Most of you are going to do really, really, really well in this course. I would say, out of all the times I run this course, about 90% of the students get an A. There's always that 10% that things happen in life, or they're kind of not putting full effort, kind of that combination, that will bring that grade down maybe to a B or C level. And then there's always maybe one or two people, for whatever reason, check out on the course and they end up getting a D or an F. But they sometimes situations kind of spiral out of control and they can't get it, can't necessarily complete the course. But right now, nobody is in even close to that area, as far as I can tell. So you're all doing really, really well. I'm kind of where I'm expecting the group to be. All right, so I'll get off my soapbox on that. But take a deep breath. You guys are going to do great. Now, let's see, what else do we have going on? I think that pretty much concludes it. We've talked a little bit about what we're doing this week. Again, I've talked about kind of the course in general. If you have any questions, concerns, keep texting me. I know some of you are. That's great. I love to be able to do that. This weekend was kind of hectic, so I think I was about 12 hours away sometimes from getting replies back to folks, but you got them back within a day, or a half day, or even this morning I was texting somebody about 6:30 this morning. So we got some things solved for that individual. But so keep texting me when you got questions. All right. Have a great week. And as always, thanks for watching.